Hey, what's going on? I hope today finds you doing well. I just woke up this morning and I figured I'd make a video. It's been a while since I have, so it's about time. Let's talk about the Monster Slash. Now, for me, I love the Slash platform. Two-wheel drive is easy to maintain, is less parts to break, is versatile. I've had this car built for a street car and I've had it up over 100 miles. I've had it in the standard slash format and I've taken it on the track. And now I have it built as a monster slash. I have these big tires on it, the sledgehammers. They're like 5 inches, they're big, meaty. And I've had all three of these motors in here. The Spectrum, what is it? 3150. I want to say it's 3660 can. I've had this Leopard Hobby 3674, 3270 kV. This motor is the one I actually broke 100 miles with. And it is my go-to motor inside of this slash, like regardless of the setup. It handled the bigger tires. It handled the Monster Slash well. I've had videos of it doing backflips and stuff like that. But the issue I ran into with this is I've crashed it doing speed runs and stuff like that without the rear bumper on. If it flips over, it scrapes up the motor, stuff like that. But the motor, or I'm sorry, the leads in here, they're loose, so the faces aren't syncing up, and it's making the car not work. So I pulled this out, and from there I was like, well, it's a 3250. I'll go ahead and put this motor in and it'll be Gucci. I ran it for a little bit, felt the motor, it felt fine. Then I ran it the rest of the pack, and when I checked the temperature, it was like 200 and let's say 225 degrees. There was a little mist of smoke coming out and it smells a little burnt. It smells a little burnt. Now currently I have in here a a boat rocket. It's a 4070 2250 kV. I bought that motor for like $40 off of a knockoff site, and I've had this motor up to 100 miles, over 100 miles, easy inside of my Ford Tech. Like it would do it back to 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 back, and it wouldn't heat up. And because of that, I was like, you know what, let me throw this in the Limitless when I got that. And the Limitless pretty much was cooking that motor because of the weight and my gearing. I probably didn't have it geared correctly for what I was trying to do. Now I'm making this video not just to show off my favorite is RC car, but to talk about the components that made this one not work and this one work. Yeah, you can say it's the size of the can, but it's bigger than the size, and actually it coincides with the size of the cans. The wattage. The wattage is a factor that people really don't talk about when they're buying motors for their vehicles. Wattage is like torque. It's the power. It's how much that vehicle can push without it overheating, what it can handle safely. The watts on this one, the Leopard, it is 20, let's say 2400 watts max. That equates to a little bit over 3 horsepower. The watts on this Spectrum, it was only 1300. It's not even 2 horsepower. And when I threw this in here, trying to push these big tires on, have Mod 1 gearing, and it's set up for, at the time, it was 15 on the pinion gear and 40 on the spur gear. Now I have this boat motor in here, and it is set up for 16 and 40 on the spur gear. The only reason it's set up for that is because if you look, a 40 can does fit into the stock setup, the stock gearbox, but there is no wiggle room. You cannot adjust it. So a 40 tooth spur gear and a 36 tooth, and a 16 tooth pinion gear fits perfectly. And if you look, I was going to try to show you the mesh. You can hear there's just a little bit of wiggle room, which is perfect mesh. There's no binding, so without the binding, there's no extra heat. Oh, I'm upside down. There we go. With no binding, there's no extra heat, and everything is Gucci. That's what you really need when you're getting motors for speed runs or any other thing. You need to look at the wattage. Yes, kV is important, but the wattage is just as important. And I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to let you all go. My Limitless, I've had that thing over 100 miles with 3 different motors. I've had it over there with a TP 3800 kV motor running on 6S, and the gearing I used for that was a 1545 gearing. That kept the boat motor cool, and it was still able to do the job. I've had that Limitless up over 100 with another TP motor, except it was geared 20. The motor kV was 2310, I think. And the gear I had to use for that was, let's say, 2245, or it might have been, it's something like that. And I currently have a big boy in there. It's thick and meaty. It's like, I want to say a 50 millimeter cam, but that thing's pushing like a 32 pinion gear easy, you know. So wattage, don't forget about wattage when you're building your speed run vehicles. And if you're going to build a monster slash, take wattage into consideration, and you should be good.